This is the Elephant Wisdom Podcast, and I am your host, Hark Joseph L., CEO of Sons of SPPhillips. And the Elephant Wisdom Podcast is your podcast for motivation, inspiration, and domination, so dominate or don't, it's up to you. Today's episode is called The Gentleman's Armor, What We Wear When We Need Strength. I need you to follow, like, and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you're listening from. And make sure to follow us on our social media pages, Facebook, IG, and X at Sons of SPP. And now we are going live on TikTok to discuss our episodes and anything else. It's either I or one of our hosts from our sister podcast, the Thursday Podcast. You can follow us on TikTok at SPP Media. That's SPP Media on TikTok. So we look forward to having you there. Make sure you find us, engage, follow us, and we'll follow you back. On today's episode, we're not just talking about fabrics and fashion. We're talking about identity. We're talking about emotional armor, what it means to show up, especially when life asks more of you than you think you can give. Before we do that, this episode is brought to you by Sons of SPPhillips. Sons of SPPhillips is an online boutique that sells designer and name brand new, pre-owned, and some vintage clothing and apparel for men and women. Go to www.sonsofspphillips.com to see our selection and get 70% off most items every day. Any purchase over $45 gets free shipping. That's Sons of SPPhillips, www.sonsofspphillips.com. $1 Million style for the $100 man, and also you get to see some of our custom clothing and accessories. So check us out. Make sure you follow us and stop by and see if there's anything that fits your style. So let's start here. Years ago, I used to work in the classroom. I used to work with 4th and 5th graders. And these weren't just your regular students. They were part of a special education program in a particular school. These kids were labeled as emotionally disturbed, cognitively delayed, and a lot of people on the streets and who knew about our school, they referred to those kids as the bad kids, or they called our school that bad school, which was not the case. Some of these children had low functioning motor skills, so doing things like tying a shoe or even writing their name was like climbing Mount Everest for them. And it would really be a trigger for some of them and their behaviors. But when we did this program, we didn't have an idea or a direction on which way to go. So I called a bunch of people. But when we finally initiated, I didn't walk in with a curriculum. I walked in with intention. With some of the gentlemen I work with, we built a youth mentoring program rooted in gentleman behavior, responsibility, hygiene, self-esteem, and yes, style. One of our first goals was, of course, teaching these young kings how to tie a tie. And I'll be honest with you, it wasn't easy to do. It was very hard. A lot of these kids didn't have motor skills and they just weren't there. And the concept of dressing properly and the concept of proper hygiene was distant to them. But we didn't give up. Not at all. What started as a small behavior program began to shift the culture of the school. For many of these children, ties became badges of honor, and then eventually the young girls of the school began asking for their own mentor program sessions. Other classrooms asked to join or be a part of it, and eventually the program grew outside the school and started getting picked up by one of our associated middle schools. That's when I realized that dressing well isn't just about looking good, it's about feeling capable. And sometimes when the world tries to tell you that you're too broken, you're too different, or you're way too far behind, putting on that armor becomes revolutionary. It's not about the tie, it's about the transformation that it brings. The idea of clothing as armor is not new. Across many continents and centuries, people have used fabric, texture, and details to communicate power, readiness, and identity. In ancient Japan, samurai warriors wore layered robes not just for utility, but for presence. African royalty and warriors draped themselves in woven textiles dyed with meaning, with colors that spoke louder than words. Even the military uniform itself, So military from Rome to Harlem became a symbol of discipline, respect, and structure. For many, wearing one wasn't just about duty, it was about dignity. And then there's the suit. In Western culture, it evolved from aristocratic formality into the modern badge of leadership. But here's the twist on that. Marginalized communities have long used the suit as reclamation. Let's think about the zoot suits during the Jazz Age or the Renaissance era, or civil rights leaders in tailored gray. These weren't just garments, they were statements that said, see me, respect me, I belong here. When I taught my young mentees to tie a tie, we weren't just passing on tradition, we were tapping into something ancient, something cross-cultural and deeply personal. The armor may change, but the purpose stays the same. The purpose of visibility, the purpose of agency, and the purpose of strength. There is a term in psychology called ecloth cognition, and it refers to the way clothing impacts our mental processes, our confidence, our focus, and even our posture. Studies have shown that wearing a lab coat can boost your attention to detail. Athletes feel faster or stronger when wearing performance gear. And men, especially men from communities that carry the weight of expectation and limitation, feel a little bit more ready when dressed intentionally. But it's more than science, it's ritual. So let's think about tying a tie. It's repetitive, it's tactile, meditative, because you have to fold, you have to pull, and you shape, and you have to center it. It requires presence, just like polishing your shoes, straightening your cuffs, or picking the right watch. These are grounding acts. Many affirmations that say, I care about how I show up. For our neurodivergent brothers, these rituals become even more vital because they create structure before stepping into an unpredictable environment. They become part of their sensory readiness. And let's be real, sometimes the necktie holds us together when everything else feels loose. Gentleman style is not about arrogance. And I will repeat that just for a few out there. Gentleman style is not about arrogance. It's about alignment. What's outside matches what's trying to emerge from inside. So let's take a pause just for a second and think about a time when what you wore helped you push through. Was it a suit for an interview? Was it a fresh, crispy pair of Air Force Ones or some Jordans that you just purchased? Or a crisp shirt at your father's funeral? The memory lives not just in your mind, but in the fabric. That's the power of emotional dressing. Style meets reality and life's defining moments, and I've seen it firsthand. You don't always feel strong walking into a job interview where you know you're being underestimated. You don't feel fearless speaking at a funeral when the grief is pressing on your chest. You don't feel seen as a father or a brother or a leader when the world doesn't ask for your story. But when you wear something intentional, something that says, I came here to represent myself fully, you gain a little ground. That's why we teach men to dress with context. For interviews, you wear sharp lines and clarity. For court, humility with dignity. For weddings, you soften it up a little bit in celebration. For speaking engagements, you wear precision and pride. And for my neurodivergent brothers, this isn't about masks, it's about tools. Clothing can be a regulated response, a predictable anchor when the room feels unsteady. I tell them, don't dress for who you fear they see, dress for the man that you're becoming. So let's talk about strategy at this point. Not fashion trends, strategy. Every man should have what I call confidence capsule. A handful of reliable garments that aren't just stylish but purposeful. Pieces you can wear when you need to feel composed, grounded, and worthy. And here's how I break it down. I start with textures that anchor. Natural fibers, wool, flannel, and heavyweight cotton offer tactile strength that add quiet mass and emotional grounding. Soft knits and silk blends for warmth in vulnerable moments, especially important for neurodivergent comfort. Next, there's colors with clarity. Deep navy commands respect without yelling, always. Then you have earth tones, olive, rust, and camel. That connects you to stability and legacy. And other colors like charcoal and crisp white, emotional resets, clean slates. And now we have our silhouettes that center you. A well-tailored blazer never fails. That's instant structure. Clean trousers that don't fight your movement. Shoes that say, I've arrived. Polished loafers or brogues, depending on your story. But beyond pieces, it's about the emotional blueprint. So ask yourself, what do I want to feel today? Do I want to feel strong? Do I want to feel safe? Do I want to feel bold? Then curate with intention. Don't wait for a wedding or a job offer to armor up. Practice being dressed for purpose daily. Now, we've talked through history, psychology, and even personal testimony, all wrapped in fabric and faith. But before we end this, I want to leave you with this. Style is memory. It's the suit your grandfather wore when he got his first job. It's the tie you helped a student fasten on Tuesday morning. It's the shoes you wiped clean before stepping into the room that scared you. Style is not just how we're seen, it's how we tell ourselves we're ready. And when done right, it becomes legacy. So I do challenge you, my brothers. Open your closet tomorrow and ask not what fits, but what makes me feel worthy today. Pick it, wear it, let it anchor you. Because the gentleman's armor isn't just cloth, it's character. This is the Elephant Wisdom Podcast, and I am your host, Hark Joseph L., CEO of Sons of SPPhillips. The Elephant Wisdom Podcast is your podcast for motivation, inspiration, and domination. So dominate or don't, it's up to you. Until next time, I want you to walk in strength, dress with intention, build your legacy one stitch at a time, and pray along the way. Thank you.